My dear child, heaven just whispered your name to someone rich and powerful, and right now, at this very moment, they are searching for you with coordinates I placed in their hands. Do not scroll past this. What I am about to reveal will permanently change how you interpret the invisibility you have been carrying as a wound. You have been doing excellent work in spaces where no one significant is watching, building something real in rooms where the only audience is the ceiling, preparing with a faithfulness that deserves a platform your current reach cannot provide. And the gap between what you carry and who can see it has been pressing against you with a frustration you are too humble to voice but too honest to deny. The gap is closing, not from your side, from theirs. A ship has been searching, my beloved child, not drifting, searching, actively scanning a specific stretch of ocean for a specific island that carries a specific signal the ship's captain was told to look for. The ship is not small. The person on its bridge is not powerless. They carry resources, connections, and access to waters your island could never reach by swimming toward them. And heaven just whispered your coordinates into their navigation system. You have been sending up flares. Every day you worked in invisible spaces was a flare. Every skill you sharpened with no audience was a flare. Every piece of excellence you produced with no platform to display it on was a flare that rose from your island into the sky and waited for a ship that was in range to see it. The ship is in range now. And the flare you sent up most recently, felt like just another burst of light into an empty sky, is the one that caught the eye of the person on the bridge. Stay here. What I reveal next is who is on that ship, and why heaven chose them specifically to navigate toward your island. Type coordinates if you have been doing excellent work in invisible spaces, and God just told you that heaven whispered your name and location to someone with the resources and reach to change everything about who can see what you carry. Before we go any further, I need to tell you something that genuinely surprised me. A neuroscientist discovered a simple 7-second technique that actually wires how your brain processes thoughts. And when I tried it, the difference was almost unsettling. My focus sharpened, ideas start connecting faster, and that mental fog, gone. This isn't manifestation nonsense. It's backed by real brain science, and thousands of people are already seeing results. But here's the catch. Only 5 spots are left. If something inside you is saying, try it, trust that instinct. Click the link in the description or pinned comment before it's too late. The person searching for you was not randomly selected from the population of people who have resources. They were specifically chosen by heaven because what they are looking for is the exact thing your island has been producing in silence, my beloved child. I need you to understand how divine arrangement operates at this level. Heaven does not whisper coordinates to ships that have no use for what the island carries. The whisper is a match, a calculated, divinely engineered pairing between a ship whose mission requires what the island produces and an island whose production requires what the ship carries. The match is not approximate, it is surgical. What they need is what you have. What you need is what they carry. My dear one, the person on the bridge of that ship has been looking for someone with your specific combination of gifting for longer than you have been looking for them. The search did not begin when heaven whispered your coordinates. The search began months ago, when a gap opened in their operation that their existing resources could not fill. They consulted their network. They examined their connections. They searched through the available talent within their current reach, and nothing matched. The gap remained open, and the gap has your exact dimensions. They do not know your name yet. They know your shape, the shape of the gift they are searching for, the precise contours of the talent, the calling, the specific combination of skill and anointing that their operation requires to reach the next level. That shape matches the outline of what you have been building in invisible rooms with no significant audience and no powerful platform. This message was not released for everyone who wants a bigger platform. This was aimed at the one person whose island has been sending flares into a sky that finally contains a ship within range. A ship whose captain was told by heaven to look up at the exact moment the flare went up and to navigate toward the light with the urgency of someone who just found what they have been searching for. Type their gap if you just realize that the person searching for you has a gap in their operation that has your exact dimensions. And heaven whispered your coordinates, because what you have been building in invisible spaces is the precise thing their resources have been unable to locate until now. I have been watching you build on your island with the specific attention of a god who knew which ship was coming and needed the flare to be ready when it arrived, my dear one. Not from the sky looking down at a general landscape of islands, from the shore of your specific island, standing beside you while your hands worked on something excellent that no one significant was watching, monitoring the quality of what you were producing with the attentive eye of someone who knew. The ship's captain would evaluate the flare within seconds of seeing it, and that the quality of the light would determine the speed of the navigation. The quality had to be ready before the ship arrived, and your hands made it ready. My beloved child, I watched every hour you invested in your craft without recognition. Every late night spent refining something that no audience was demanding you refine. Every skill you sharpened past the point of necessity. Not because anyone was inspecting the edge, but because something inside you would not permit mediocrity, even when mediocrity would have been accepted by the empty room you were working in. That something was me, whispering, sharpen it more into the part of your spirit that governs your standards. I was sharpening the flare, because a dim flare is visible only to ships that are close. A brilliant flare is visible to ships that are far. And the ship I was sending toward your island was not close. It was far enough away that the flare needed to carry a brilliance that only the level of preparation you invested in your invisible season could produce. I chose you for this message because the flare is ready. Not almost ready, not in need of one more season of sharpening before the ship can see it. Ready. The quality you achieved in the invisible rooms without the pressure of significant eyes watching is the exact quality that the significant eyes approaching your island are trained to recognize. Your preparation in obscurity produced a flare that visibility could not have improved. Type ready flare if God has been standing on the shore of your island, watching you sharpen your craft past the point of necessity. And the excellence you produced without an audience is the exact brilliance the approaching ship's captain is trained to recognize. I know what the invisibility has been doing to the way you evaluate the worth of what you carry, my beloved child. Not the public version of the frustration, the version that presents itself as patience, as humility, as the spiritual discipline of a person who is content to work without recognition because the work itself is the reward. That version is what you show. What you carry is different. What you carry is the quiet, corrosive, impossible to fully suppress question that surfaces in the moments between the work and the sleep. The moments when the hands that produced something excellent are still, and the mind that governed the producing is left alone with the silence of a room that does not contain the one person who would look at what was built and say, this changes everything. The silence in that room has been rewriting your self-assessment. My child, I watched the rewriting happen incrementally, not as a single dramatic loss of confidence, but as a slow, steady, erosion pattern decline in the internal valuation you assign to what your hands produce. The first month of invisibility did not touch the valuation. The second month introduced a hairline question. By the 6th month, the question had widened into a crack, and the crack has been whispering a sentence that your talent does not deserve, but your isolation has made convincing. If this were truly excellent, someone would have found it by now. That sentence is a lie built on a timing assumption. The assumption that discovery is proportional to quality, that excellent things are found quickly, and invisible things are invisible, because they are not excellent enough to attract the eyes that matter. The assumption ignores the variable that changes everything, the position of the ship. Your island was never invisible because the flare was dim. It was invisible because the ship was not yet in range. The quality was always there. The ship was the variable. And the ship is now in range, not because you finally made the flare bright enough, but because heaven finally positioned the ship close enough for the flare your hands have been sending up for months to be seen by the eyes that were always going to recognize it. The deepest wound the invisibility inflicted was not the absence of recognition. It was watching people with dimmer flares get found by ships that were never searching for them, my dear child. You watched it happen. Someone whose preparation was shorter than yours caught the attention of a platform your years of sharpening had not accessed. Someone whose skill level was a fraction of what your invisible rooms developed was elevated into a visibility that your excellence has not produced. Someone whose flare was objectively dimmer was spotted by a ship that was passing nearby, and the ease of their discovery made the difficulty of yours feel like a verdict on the value of what you carry. The comparison was inevitable, and the conclusion it produced was devastating. My beloved child, the conclusion was, proximity matters more than quality. Being near a passing ship matters more than sending up a brilliant flare from a distant island. And if proximity is the real variable, then my years of sharpening the flare in invisible rooms were wasted effort, because the flare was never the problem. The location was. That conclusion is half right, and the half that is wrong changes everything. Proximity does matter. A dim flare seen by a nearby ship produces a faster discovery than a brilliant flare unseen by a distant ship. The people whose dimmer flares were discovered because of proximity, not because their flares were superior. Their ships were closer, their discovery was faster, and the speed of their discovery said nothing about the quality of yours. But the half that is wrong is the assumption that proximity is random. It is not. The ships that found the dimmer flares were not the ships I was sending toward your island. They were passing ships. Ships on their own routes. Ships whose captains were not given coordinates by heaven, but happened to be close enough to see what was nearby. My dear one, I did not send you a passing ship. I sent you a searching ship, and the difference between being found by a passing ship and being found by a searching ship is the difference between accidental discovery and divine assignment. Type searching ship if you have watched people with less preparation get discovered faster, and the comparison nearly convinced you that quality does not matter until God revealed that the ship approaching your island is not passing by, but actively searching with coordinates heaven placed in the captain's hands. The invisibility was never a mistake in your positioning. It was the necessary condition for a flare that would be visible only to the specific ship I was sending, and invisible to every ship that was not assigned to your coordinates. My beloved one, I need to permanently dismantle the narrative that says your location was wrong. Your island was not placed in the wrong stretch of ocean. It was placed in the exact stretch that the searching ship's navigation system was programmed to scan. The passing ships, the ones that found dimmer flares on nearby islands, those ships were not on your route. Their routes did not cross your coordinates, and a flare seen by the wrong ship produces a connection that does not match the island's resources to the ship's mission. Wrong ships discover islands they cannot serve, and islands discovered by wrong ships spend years in mismatched connections. My child, the people whose dimmer flares were found faster were found by passing ships. Some of those connections served them well, some did not. But none of those connections carried the specific mission alignment that a searching ship carries. Because a passing ship picks up what it finds and evaluates the match later. A searching ship navigates toward a match that heaven already confirmed before the coordinates were given. Your delayed discovery is not delayed luck. It is curated connection, and the years of invisibility served a purpose the visible years could not have served. The invisible season gave you time to sharpen the flare without the pressure of a premature audience evaluating work that was still being refined. An island discovered too early, before the flare reaches its full brilliance, is an island evaluated on incomplete preparation. And incomplete preparation, evaluated by a significant ship, produces a verdict that is harder to recover from than continued invisibility. My dear one, the invisibility protected the flare from premature evaluation by ships that would have seen it before it was ready. And the flare is ready now, because the invisible season lasted exactly as long as the sharpening required. You were hidden until the flare was bright enough for the right ship, and the right ship was held at distance until the flare was worth the journey. The ship just adjusted its heading, and the adjustment brought your island into the direct navigational path of someone whose resources match the scale of what your flare has been signaling. My beloved child, something shifted in the last few days, in a realm you do not have direct access to. A conversation happened that you were not part of. A name came up in a room you have never entered. A search query was refined by a person whose previous parameters were not producing results. And the refined query moved your coordinates from the periphery of their scanning range to the center of their search grid. You did not cause the refinement. Heaven did. My child, I have been working in the navigation room of the searching ship while simultaneously standing on the shore of your island. The dual positioning is not contradictory. It is the architecture of divine arrangement. On the ship, I was adjusting the search parameters to match the specific signal your flare produces. On the island, I was ensuring the flare maintained the exact brilliance the adjusted parameters would detect. Both sides were being prepared simultaneously, and both sides just reached readiness at the same moment. The person on the bridge has narrowed their search. The broad scanning that was producing too many results and no matches has been replaced by a specific filter. A filter whose specifications read like a description of exactly who you are and exactly what you carry, not approximately. The filter describes your gift, your specific combination, your exact frequency of excellence. My dear one, when the refined search produces your signal, and it will, because the filter was designed to detect you specifically, the match will be so precise that the person on the bridge will experience the discovery not as finding an option, but as finding the one their operation has been missing, the one their resources have been searching for, the one heaven whispered coordinates to them about before the search parameters were refined. The refinement is complete. Your signal is in the center of the grid, and the detection is imminent. Type in the grid if you have felt something shifting this week. A conversation you were not part of, a name mentioned in a room you have never entered, and you now believe that heaven just adjusted the search parameters of someone powerful to detect the exact signal your island has been producing. Heaven just whispered your name to someone rich and powerful, and the title carries those words, because the whispering is not a metaphor for a gradual process, but the description of a specific moment when a specific person received specific information about you from a source they cannot explain. My dear one, The person on the bridge of the searching ship experienced something this week that disrupted their normal decision-making process. A nudge, a pull, a sudden, unexplained, non-rational impression that redirected their attention from the directions they were searching toward a direction they had not yet considered. They cannot explain why they are now looking where they are looking. They do not have a logical framework for the pull that is drawing their navigational attention toward a stretch of ocean their business strategy did not identify as relevant. Heaven does not explain its whispers to the people who receive them. It lets the discovery explain itself. My beloved child, this is directly connected to your journey and to the title. The person searching for you is not someone who is casually browsing for talent or passively open to discovering something new. This is someone whose operation has reached a ceiling that their current resources cannot break through. And the ceiling requires exactly what your island produces to be shattered. They need you, not generically, structurally. The gap in their operation has your exact dimensions, and the ceiling above their growth has a crack that only the specific frequency of your flare can widen into an opening. My child, they are not doing you a favor by finding you. You are doing them a favor by being found. The connection is mutual. The ship carries what the island needs: resources, reach, platform, access to waters the island cannot swim to alone. And the island carries what the ship needs: the specific signal, the exact gift, the precise quality of flare that the ship's mission has been unable to produce from within its own crew. Two needs, one whisper, and a navigation that is now locked onto coordinates that point directly at the island where you have been sending up flares into what you thought was empty sky. The ship is close enough now that if you listen past the sound of your own frustration, you can hear the engine of something approaching your island from a direction you stopped watching. My beloved child, can you feel it? Not with your logical mind. Your logical mind has been processing the invisibility for so long that it no longer scans for incoming vessels. It's stopped scanning the same way a person standing at a window stops scanning for a visitor who never comes. The body remains at the window, but the eyes stop focusing on the horizon, because focusing without result produces a fatigue that unfocused waiting does not carry. Your eyes stopped focusing on the horizon, but the ship does not require your focused attention to arrive. It only requires your position. My dear one, the vibration you felt this week, the unexplained internal shift that your system could not trace to any external cause, that was not restlessness. It was the subsonic register of a large vessel approaching your coordinates at a speed that the water transmits before the sound reaches the air. Your island felt the ship before your ears could hear it, and the feeling was interpreted by a system calibrated for disappointment as just another fluctuation in a season that has produced nothing significant. It is not a fluctuation. It is approach. Everything has been building toward this proximity. The years of sharpening the invisible rooms, the flares sent into skies that seemed empty, the passing ships that discovered dimmer flares on closer islands. All of it was the positioning, the precise, divinely engineered placement of an island at exact coordinates that a specific searching ship would eventually be navigated toward by the hand of an exchange operator who whispers into navigation systems the way other voices whisper into ears. The ship is approaching your horizon. The captain has your coordinates locked, and the flare you sent up most recently is the light they are navigating by tonight. Type approaching horizon if you felt an internal vibration this week that your system dismissed as nothing, and you now believe it was the subsonic register of a powerful ship approaching your island with coordinates that heaven locked into their navigation before either of you knew the other existed. The ship just crested your horizon, And the person standing on the bridge looking directly at your island is exactly who heaven told them to search for, and you are exactly what they have been searching for. My beloved child, this is the moment. The moment the sky that has been receiving your flares without visible response reveals that it was never empty. It was holding a ship at a distance your eyes could not reach until the navigation brought it close enough for the horizon to surrender what it was carrying toward you. The ship is visible, the flare was seen, and the searching is over. I need you to feel what is happening to the invisibility right now, the invisibility that has been your defining condition, the gap between what you carry and who can see it. That gap is closing in real time as a vessel, whose size matches the scale of your calling, navigates into the waters around your island with the deliberate, locked-on, coordinate-confirmed intention of someone who did not stumble upon what they are seeing, but was sent to find it. They are not stumbling, they are arriving. Heaven just whispered your name to someone rich and powerful. The whisper contained your coordinates. The coordinates brought the ship to range. The flare caught the captain's eye at the exact moment heaven intended, and what the captain saw in the light of your flare, the brilliance, the quality, the specific frequency of excellence that only years of invisible sharpening could produce, told them in a single moment that the search was over. My child, you are being found. Not accidentally, not through a networking strategy that finally produced a connection, not through a door you forced open with the persistence of someone who has been knocking for years. Found by a ship that was searching for you, with coordinates that heaven placed, because the God who positioned the island and the God who navigated the ship is the same God who timed the flare to rise at the moment the bridge was watching. The sky was never empty. The ship was always coming. And today, the horizon delivered what it has been carrying toward you since before you sent up the first flare. Now that the ship has arrived, and the captain has confirmed the coordinates, match everything about your island's relationship to the ocean is changing. From isolated to connected, from invisible to strategic, my dear child. This is what happens when a searching ship reaches the island it was navigated toward. The island does not move. It does not have to. The ship brings the connection to the island, and the connection brings everything the island lacked access to, routes the island could never swim to, ports the island could never reach, networks of other islands that the ship has visited on its journey, whose connections are now accessible through the vessel, whose bridge carried a captain that heaven sent specifically to this stretch of ocean. Your isolation was geographic. The ship just eliminated the geography. My beloved child, the resources on that ship are not charity. They are mission-matched investment. The captain did not navigate to your island to donate to a cause. They navigated because what they are building requires what your island produces. And what your island produces is the missing component that their entire operation has been unable to source from any other location despite months of searching. You are not receiving a favor. You are completing a circuit. And the completion changes everything about how the world interacts with your gift. The work you produced in invisible rooms, the excellence that no significant eyes were watching, is about to be placed on a platform whose reach makes your previous audience of ceilings and empty rooms look like a rehearsal space rather than a performance venue. The rehearsal is over. The stage just arrived at your island on the deck of a ship whose captain is not asking whether the island is worth the journey. They already know. Heaven confirmed it before the navigation began. And the confirmation produced a certainty in the captain that your years of self-doubt could never have generated from the island alone. They are certain about you, because heaven was certain first. Type circuit complete, if you can feel the isolation ending. not because you finally reached the right people, but because the right person just reached you. And the connection is not charity, but the completion of a circuit that their operation needed as much as your island did. Let me show you what your life looks like now that the ship has anchored at your island, and the resources it carries are being unloaded onto the shore, where your invisible work has been waiting for a platform proportional to its quality. My dear one, the first thing that changes is the reach. The work you have been producing in invisible rooms, the excellence that has been contained to an audience of no one significant, is about to travel on routes your island never had access to. The ship carries connections to ports you have never visited, harbors where the people who need what you produce are already gathered, waters that your gift was designed to travel but could never access from the fixed position of an island that does not move. Your gift is about to travel, and the distance it covers will dwarf the distance your frustration measured. My beloved child, the mornings change immediately. You have been waking up into the invisibility, the familiar first-thought awareness that another day of excellent work will be produced in another room, where no one significant will see it. Tomorrow you wake up into connection, the specific, named, resource-backed connection of a person whose ship is anchored at your shore and whose mission requires your daily output to be visible to audiences that your island's location could never have reached alone. The ceiling over your visibility just shattered, not because you grew taller, because the ship brought a ladder. The financial dimension shifts alongside the visibility. The person on the bridge carries resources that are searching for a place to invest, not randomly, but strategically, in the specific kind of production that your island has been generating without adequate funding. The resources they carry were allocated for this specific search, and the discovery of your island converts the allocated resources from searching budget to building budget. Your gift is about to be funded at the level it always deserved. And the funding arrives not as a gift, but as an investment from someone who saw the flare and recognized it as the highest return opportunity their search has ever produced. People who watched you work in invisible rooms are going to see the ship anchored at your shore, and the presence of a vessel that size at an island that was previously unvisited will produce questions that only heaven's navigation can answer. My beloved child, the ones who knew you during the invisible season, who watched you sharpen flares that nobody was seeing, who quietly wondered why excellence at your level had not yet been discovered by the kind of people who search for excellence at your level. Those people are about to witness the arrival of a connection so precisely matched to your gift that the pairing will look engineered rather than discovered. It was engineered by hands that operate above the ocean both ships and islands occupy. My child, the contrast between the invisible season and the connected season is going to be the most visible evidence that what changed was not your quality, but your coordinates on someone's navigation screen. Because your quality did not improve between yesterday and today, your output did not sharpen overnight. The flare is the same flare. What changed is that a ship whose captain was searching with parameters heaven refined to detect your specific signal finally came within range and saw what was always there. Same island, same flare, different audience, completely different outcome. Other islands are going to begin appearing on the ship's route, not as competitors but as collaborators. There are gifted people whose islands are positioned along the routes the ship will travel after anchoring at yours, and the connection your island provides to the captain's mission will create a network effect that brings other invisible islands into the same connected system. My dear one, your discovery opens a route, and the route connects other islands that were as invisible as yours, for the same reasons yours was. Not dim flares, but distant ships. Your finding opens their finding, and the network that forms around the ship's route becomes a constellation of gifts that heaven was always planning to connect through the same vessel. Type opens a route if you believe that your discovery by the searching ship is not just your breakthrough. It opens a route that connects other gifted people whose invisible islands are positioned along the path the ship will travel after anchoring at your shore. I need you to understand why I positioned your island where I did, rather than closer to the shipping lanes where discovery would have come faster, my beloved child. Closer islands get found faster. That is not debatable. An island positioned near a busy shipping lane is visible to every passing vessel, discovered quickly, evaluated frequently, connected to whatever ship happens to be nearest at the moment the flare goes up. The speed of discovery is high. The quality of the match is random. I did not want random for you. I wanted specific. My child, your island was positioned at a distance from the shipping lanes that guaranteed only a searching ship. A ship on a directed mission with heaven-provided coordinates would navigate far enough from the common routes to reach your location. The distance was not a punishment. It was a filter, a geographic selection mechanism that ensured the first significant ship to reach your island would not be a passing vessel that found you by accident, but a searching vessel that found you on purpose. Your distance was your filter, and the filter worked. I chose you for this specific positioning because what your island carries cannot be served by a random connection. The gift you have been sharpening in invisible rooms is not a general-purpose commodity that any ship can transport. It is a specific, high-value, precisely calibrated resource that requires a carrier whose mission is aligned at the structural level with what the island produces. Random ships would have misused the resource. Misaligned ships would have transported the gift to the wrong ports. Passing ships would have loaded what you carry alongside cargo that would have contaminated the frequency of a flare that was calibrated for a specific captain's eyes. My dear one, I kept you distant to keep you pure, and the purity of your signal is the reason the captain recognized it instantly when the ship came within range. A signal contaminated by premature connections carries noise. Your signal carries clarity, and clarity at your frequency is what made heaven whisper your name to the one person whose ears were tuned to hear exactly that. The doubt forming right now is asking the question your invisible season trained you to ask. What if the ship sees the island up close and decides the flare looked better from a distance, my child? It sounds like this. What if the discovery is the peak and the disappointment follows? What if the person on the bridge saw the flare and was impressed by the light, but when they actually anchor at the shore and examine what the island produces, they find it does not match the brilliance, the flare projected from across the water? What if I am a better signal than I am a substance? What if being found is the beginning of being evaluated, and being evaluated is the beginning of being dismissed? That doubt just confused distance-dependent quality with distance-independent quality, and your quality is distance-independent. My beloved child, a flare that looks brilliant from a distance, but dim up close, is a flare that was manufactured for appearance. A flare that maintains its brilliance at every distance, from the first glimpse on the horizon to the close inspection at the shore, is a flare built from genuine substance. And yours was built in invisible rooms where no audience was present to reward appearance over substance. You had no incentive to manufacture a false signal. There was no one watching to impress with a surface brilliance that substance could not sustain. What you produced in invisibility was produced for no one's evaluation except your own standards. which were governed by the whisper I placed in your spirit that said, "Sharpen it more," even when no one would have noticed if you had stopped. The sharpening was substance training, and the substance is what the captain will find when the ship anchors and the close inspection begins. The close inspection will not diminish what the distance revealed. It will confirm it, because what was seen from the horizon was not a projected illusion. It was the authentic frequency of a gift that was sharpened past the point of performance into the territory of genuine mastery. Type substance if the doubt tried to convince you that the discovery will lead to disappointment up close, and you know that what was built in invisible rooms without an audience to impress was built from substance that does not diminish at close range, because it was never manufactured for distance. During every day of the invisible season, I was not on the ship waiting for it to reach your island. I was on your island waiting for the ship to arrive, my beloved child. You imagined a god who positioned your island, pointed a ship in its general direction, and then stepped back to let the navigation and the timing converge on their own. Who set the coordinates and returned to managing the ocean while the island sat in silence, sending flares into what felt like a permanently empty sky. I never left the island. I was on your shore the entire time. My child, every flare you've sent up was watched by someone before it was watched by the ship. Me, standing on the sand beside you, watching the light rise from your hands into the sky, with the specific attention of a father who was tracking both the quality of the flare and the position of the ship simultaneously. Knowing that the flare needed to maintain its brilliance during a season when no response was visible, because the ship was still too far for the light to register on the captain's instruments. You were sending flares into what you thought was emptiness. You were actually sending them into my presence. I saw every single one, not as a general observer of all flares sent from all islands, as the specific named, personally present audience for the specific flares you sent from the specific island, where I was standing beside you during the specific season. Your frustration was telling you nobody was watching. Somebody was watching, the most significant somebody available. And the watching was not passive, it was participatory. Every flare that rose from your island rose through my hands, not because you needed help lifting the light, because I was adding my breath to the flame, ensuring that the brilliance was maintained at the level the approaching ship's instruments required during a season where your discouragement was threatening to reduce the intensity below detection threshold. Your flares were co-produced, your brilliance was co-sustained, and the shore you were standing on was never empty of the one audience that mattered most. I know the exact flare that almost did not get sent, the one your discouragement nearly extinguished before your hands could lift it into the sky. And I know it because that is the flare the ship is navigating by tonight. My dear one, not every flare carried the same cost. Some rose easily from hands that were still carrying residual confidence from a season that felt slightly less invisible than the one before it. Some rose with effort from hands that were tired but functional. But there was one, the one that almost stayed unlit, the one your discouragement sat on with its full weight at the moment your hands were reaching for the materials to assemble it. My beloved child, I know which flare it was, and I know what almost stopped it. It was the project you almost did not finish, the skill you almost did not sharpen one more time, the piece of work that your exhaustion told you nobody would ever see, and your frustration told you nobody would ever value, and your invisibility told you was pointless to produce at the level of excellence your internal standards were demanding when no external standard was requiring it. You almost listened to the exhaustion, and then something quieter than the exhaustion, smaller than the frustration, barely audible beneath the noise of a season, that was screaming, "Stop sending flares into empty sky," said, "Finish it." That something was me, speaking from the shore beside you, not loudly, at the exact volume required to reach the part of your spirit that governs whether the hands continue when the mind has already stopped. The hands continued, the flare went up, and the light from that specific flare, the one that almost did not exist, is the light the captain locked onto when the ship crested the horizon. The flare you almost did not send is the flare that was seen. And the God who whispered, "Finish it," is the same God who whispered the coordinates to the captain, who is now navigating by its light. Type almost did not send if God just described the specific project or piece of work your exhaustion almost prevented you from completing. And you now know that the flare you nearly extinguished is the exact one the searching ship is navigating by tonight. Now that the ship is anchored, and the captain has confirmed the match, there is one thing I need you to do, my beloved child. And it is the most counterintuitive instruction a person on an invisible island can receive. Stop sending flares. Not stop working. Not stop producing. Not stop sharpening the gift that your invisible season developed to the level of brilliance that attracted the searching ship. Stop sending flares. The flares were the signal. The signal served its purpose. The ship has arrived. And a person who continues sending distress signals after rescue has arrived is a person who has not yet registered that the season of signaling has transitioned into the season of collaborating. My child, the posture of sending up flares and the posture of meeting a captain are fundamentally different postures. A flare sender faces upward, projecting their signal into the sky, hoping someone will look up. A captain meter faces forward, standing at the shore to receive what has arrived and to begin the work of loading the ship with what the island produces. Your face needs to turn, from sky to shore, from signaling to receiving. When the connection arrives, and it is arriving imminently through a channel you may not expect, do not respond with the posture of someone who is still trying to be found. You have been found. Respond with the posture of someone who was always valuable enough to be searched for, and whose island was always positioned at the coordinates heaven intended. The posture of confidence, not arrogance, confidence. The specific, grounded, substance-backed confidence of a person who knows that what their island produces is the thing the ship was sent to find. Do not undersell the island to the captain. The captain already knows its value. Heaven told them before the coordinates were given. Meet the ship as an equal partner in a divine arrangement, rather than a grateful recipient of an undeserved rescue. Because this is not rescue. This is assignment. And assignments require both parties to stand at full height. You made it to the moment the ship arrived, my beloved child, and I need you to stand on your shore, looking at the vessel anchored in your waters, and feel what it means to be found by someone who was searching for exactly what you carry. Feel the weight shift, not the weight of the gift. That weight has been constant since the day I placed it inside you. The weight of the invisibility, the specific, cumulative, daily compounding weight of carrying something excellent in a space where no one significant could see it. That weight is being lifted right now, not by the removal of the gift, by the arrival of the audience. Because a gift that is seen does not weigh less than a gift that is unseen. It weighs the same, but the carrier stands straighter, because the weight has been given meaning by the eyes that finally recognized it. You are standing straighter right now, and the standing is involuntary. I want to thank you for something the invisible season made almost impossible to sustain. Thank you for sharpening. Thank you for the nights you refined a flare that no one was asking you to refine. Thank you for the mornings you produced excellence in rooms where the only standard being applied was your own. Because no external standard had the access or the interest to inspect what your hands were making. My dear child, thank you for maintaining brilliance in darkness. That is the rarest discipline a human being can exercise. Let the tears come, not frustration tears, not invisibility tears, not the tears of someone sending flares into an empty sky, wondering if excellence even matters when no one significant is watching. Arrival tears, the tears of someone standing on a shore watching a ship anchor in their waters, knowing for the first time that the sky was never empty. The flares were always being counted, and the God who whispered coordinates to the captain was the same God who stood on the shore beside the island, whispering to the flare sender, "Do not stop. The ship is coming. What you carry is worth the entire journey." Type "worth the journey" if tears are forming right now because a ship just anchored at your shore. And the God who positioned the island, sharpened the flare, navigated the ship, and whispered the coordinates is standing beside you, confirming that everything you built in invisible rooms was always worth the journey it took for the right eyes to find it. You are not the invisible island anymore, my beloved child. That identity, the one who sent flares into empty skies, the one who sharpened excellence in rooms where only ceilings watched, the one who compared the speed of dimmer flares being discovered by passing ships to the silence of a brilliant flare, waiting for a searching one, the one who began to wonder if the gap between what they carry and who can see it was a permanent sentence rather than a temporary positioning. That identity was retired. The moment a ship crested the horizon carrying a captain, whose search ended the second the flare you almost did not send, caught the light of the exact sky that heaven was watching. You are a found island now, and found changes everything. The invisibility that defined your trajectory, your self-assessment, your mornings, and your relationship with the gift I placed inside you has been permanently ended by the arrival of a vessel, whose anchor in your water is the physical evidence that what you carry was always worth searching for. The searching was not your responsibility. It was the ship's. Your responsibility was to maintain the flare, and you maintained it through a season so invisible that maintaining anything felt pointless. My dear child, the maintaining was the point, and the point just proved itself. From this moment forward, you carry the identity of someone whose island was positioned by God, whose flare was sharpened by invisible obedience, and whose discovery was engineered by a heaven that whispers coordinates to the captains of ships, whose missions require the exact resource the island produces. You are not a person who needs to swim to ships. You are a person whose shore attracts them. Because what rises from your island when your hands send up the signal they were designed to send is a light that the right captain, on the right ship, at the right moment, cannot look away from. The ship arrived. The captain confirmed. The match is structural, and the person who was told your name by heaven is not leaving your shore, because what they found when they anchored is more than what the coordinates promised. The coordinates said, "Search here." The arrival said, "This is what I have been looking for." You were always what they were looking for. The sky was never empty. The flares were never wasted. And the God who positioned an island at the exact coordinates that a searching ship would eventually be whispered toward is the same God who will ensure that every future ship assigned to your waters arrives with the same certainty, navigated by heaven, drawn by the flare, anchored by the match that only divine arrangement can produce. Send no more flares into the sky, my beloved child. The sky delivered what it was holding. And what it delivered is standing on your shore right now, confirming that the invisible season just produced the most significant connection your calling has ever received. Subscribe to this channel so that every time heaven whispers your coordinates to a ship that is searching, the message reaches you before the invisibility convinces you the sky is empty. You are not an unfound island anymore. You are a positioned signal whose flare was seen by the exact eyes that were sent to find it. The next message carries the first report from a shore that is no longer empty. And what the anchored ship unloads onto your island will prove that every invisible night of sharpening was the preparation for a discovery that was always going to arrive exactly when it did. Type ship arrived if you are leaving this message permanently changed. Knowing the invisibility was positioning. The flares were never wasted. The ship was always searching. Heaven whispered your name to someone with the resources to change everything. And the God who stood on your shore during the invisible season is the same God watching the captain anchor at an island, whose coordinates were always written into the navigation of a vessel that was built to find exactly what you carry.